Did you ever wanted to one-shot every boss in Path of Exile 2? Well, if the answer is yes, I wanted the same. And in this video, I want to show you what you need to replicate it. It is very expensive, but easy to start and to build on. Alright, first off, let's show you the skills that I use. For overall map clear, I use Galvanic Shards, Close Combat, Nimble Reload, Fork, Long Shot, and Mobility. I'll come to passives and ascendancies in the later point. But if you struggle with damage, I would rather go for gem-studded than implanted gems. Then you could change mobility for Primal Amendment, Long Shot for ambush, or even Nimble Reload for lightning infusion. But I would rather use it for Herald of Ice. For boss encounters, I use Plasmablast, together with Inevitable Critical, Hourglass, Ambush, Lightning Infusion, and Primal Armament. If they are still alive, I use Shockburst together with Martial Tempo, Elemental Focus, Concentrated Effect, Fresh Clip, and Execute. If I ever need to reapply a shock, I use Voltaic Grenade together with Ingenuity, Lasting Shock, Lightning Exposure, Scattershot, and Conductivity. This ensures maximum uptime of my shock and also applies Lightning Exposure. For better map clear, I use the almost infamous Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder combo, giving me 35% lightning damage on killing a shocked enemy, and infusing my Herald of Thunder with extra freeze buildup and cold damage to ensure the proc of Herald of Ice. For the leftover 40 spirits, I use Wind Dancer, but honestly, you could use any defensive spirit gem in the slot. Last but not least, for Pinnacle Bosses, I use Elemental Conflux for an additional 78% more damage. If you fight against the Arbiter of Ash, you use Fast Forward. Against any other boss, you use Persistence. This is due to recent changes, where they made Arbiter of Ash longer invincible and reduced the damage in the first few seconds. I will demonstrate this at a later point. For my last skill, I use Conductivity, together with Cursed Ground, Ritualist Curse, Spell Echo, and Persistence, if not used on Elemental Conflux. Alright, let's talk about gear. For the gloves, helmet, body armor and belt, I use the typical attribute stacking items. For rings, you want to look out for prefixes with physical, lightning or cold damage, and for the suffixes, you want to look out for plus all attributes, plus int or plus dex. Breach rings are recommended, but if you struggle with resistances, you should probably go for prismatic rings or other rings that give you more resistances. For the amulet, you want to look out for evasion rating and maximum mana. If you can't get these, not a problem. They're just extra stats that will give you survivability. Prioritize suffixes such as Projectile Skills, all attributes, or intelligence. Allocate pure power in your amulet to save 6 passive points to get to 2 additional jewel sockets. For shoes, get movement speed, maximum mana, and resistances. For the crossbow, I use 2 different ones, one for maximized damage and one with attack speed, both prioritizing level of projectile skills. And on the prefixes, percentage fizz, flat fizz, or lightning or cold damage. For the jewels, you want emeralds with a combination of attack, lightning, projectile, crossbow, or rare or unique damage, combined with suffixes like crit chance or crit damage, or even both. As a cherry on top, you can also get a Prism of Belief with additional Plasmablast level. Also, you want to have 1 to 2 sapphires with percentage mana on kill for survivability. Other than the Prism of Belief, Against the Darkness diamond is highly recommended. Try to find one with percentage int and on top of that percentage cold damage. If you don't find one that has both, you can choose if you rather want to boost your damage overall with percentage int or rather your cold damage to proc Herald of Ice if you're struggling with that. For tight budgets, I would recommend to go for Hand of Wisdom and Action first, then a utility belt with at least 55% increased ring effects, any regalia with 5% attributes per socket, plus for example maximum mana or rarity. Then I would go for a Against the Darkness jewel with either extra cold damage or increased intelligence plus anything else. Alright, for my ascendancies, I chose Enhanced Effectiveness as it doubles the inherent bonus of Intelligence, Strength and Dexterity, which increases my maximum mana. As I use Mind Over Matter as well as Chaos Inoculation, mana is the only HP that I have, so it's very important to have more of it. For my last 4 points, I chose Implanted Gems to get another 500% plasma damage bonus, but I would actually recommend to just go for gem studded as it gives you more options and therefore more damage as earlier described. Other than that, I maximized my skill tree for jewel sockets as they give me multiple bonuses instead of just one, and I wanted to have 100% crit chance, which was probably not possible with just passive nodes. To get even more damage from a Plasmablast, I decided to take advantage of the weapon set mechanic and added extra crit damage node and damage nodes for enemies on full life to my weapon set 1, and evasion, dexterity and attack speed to weapon set 2. If you want to copy this build and you're still in the early game, I also included the Maxroll guide in the description. There you can find the recommended skill cutting order as well as 3 different passive skill trees. One for the mid and early game, one that is my current build that I showcase right now, as well as one that is utilizing a Pillar of the Cage God, but you can also use this with your crossbows. Alright, next I want to give you a little map showcase. For the purpose of this video, I'm using a tier 60 map with an irradiated zone and a boss at the end. I sadly couldn't find a corrupted boss node on my atlas, so we just have to work with this. As I only run bosses right now, I actually forgot to switch from the Conflux to the Herald of Ice and Thunder combo, so I had to change that before we got started. But as you can see, clearing maps on this difficulty on level 81 isn't a problem, and together with the Herald of Ice and Thunder, it's actually a pretty nice clear. As a note while I'm clearing this map, you could also use the Pillar of the Cage God together with Tempest Flurry, as it doesn't only help you on map clearing, but also on faster breaches, enabling you to just press one button that also moves you forward in the direction that you pointed at without the need of using WASD. Have in mind, if you only want to utilize this quarterstaff and the skill, you should probably look for Pillar of the Cage God builds instead. As we are heading towards the boss now, I want to explain how I approach map bosses and pinnacle bosses. For any boss in general, I approach the boss and put down my conductivity curse. Then I start charging a plasma burst, and once the boss is targetable, I just shoot and kill it.
Need a sec.
As already mentioned, the only difference between map bosses and pinnacle bosses is that I use elemental conflux to get around 80% more lightning damage when the conflux cycle comes up. So that's where the persistence gem comes in, as bosses tend to have a few seconds of approachment time where they are unkillable and you need to trigger them. We need a certain amount of time between one conflux cycle and another to approach the boss. Put down the curse, charge the Plasmablast and kill it. So as elemental conflux basic duration is 8 seconds, and you'll get notified about the next phase at the 50% mark of the duration of the current phase, so at 4 seconds. You'll have a total of 12 seconds if you don't use a duration increase. That's why persistence is perfect for this. It gives you enough time to kill the boss, even if you wouldn't one-shot it. It leaves you a few seconds of burst time even still, without you waiting too long for your window to approach the boss. because this is the only downside to this build. You sometimes have to wait multiple phases, which can sum up to a minute or two, if you're really unlucky. The last thing I want to talk about is the Arbiter of Ash and his recent changes. With the latest patch, GGG not only changed his approachment time, but also reduced the damage he would take in the first few seconds. This is bad because we would miss our timing normally on our Conflux cycle. Before the recent changes, we could have just walked up to him and one-shotted him like every other boss. Luckily for us, if you don't damage the boss before, he will just do harmless attacks to you that you can easily dodge until your Conflux cycle comes up. So, as we don't have an approachment and trigger time anymore, we can take out the persistence gem and even swap it for a fast forward gem. This will reduce our time from 12 seconds per cycle to 6 seconds per cycle, which is still enough to apply the curse and charge the Plasmablast when our cycle is about to come up.
Flare. Behold the burning horizon.
Shocking!
Insignificance. This is the legacy of humanity. The Mother Soul must.
As some final thoughts, I think this build is a lot of fun and is almost unique for what it does right now, as it can one-shot any Pinnacle boss on any difficulty without stacking any AoE damage whatsoever. I do have to say though that it's very expensive, and there are probably better builds out there which are more rounded and give you more survivability as well as good damage for a lower price. Though it does what I wanted it to do, and I'm very happy with the outcome of it, and I'm waiting for more bosses to one-shot in the future. One pro factor that I think is very mentionable, that it is already viable on a cheap budget. Even though you can't expect to one-shot bosses with Plasma Burst, it will still do a chunk of damage and will also apply to 100% the shock that you need for your Shockburst Rounds to finish the job. I didn't try it for myself yet, but I think the Deadeye Ascendancy might be actually better for a lower budget than the Gemling, as it provides you with more evasion, attack speed and movement speed, as well as one additional projectile, which is huge if you deal a lot of damage with one projectile already and get another one for free. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you all for watching. Bye!